I was ecstatic, standing in what was supposed to be the doorway to our future. But as Caleb dropped the bombshell that his parents were moving in, that doorway felt more like a trapdoor beneath my feet. "Surprise!" Caleb exclaimed with a grin, his arms wide as if expecting praise. "My parents are going to move in with us. Won't that be great?" I stood there, stunned. This was the first I'd heard of it. The joy I'd felt just moments before evaporated, replaced by a sinking feeling in my gut. We'd just finished building our dream home. I'd poured my entire life savings into it, working long hours to afford the perfect place for Caleb and I to start our new life together. After a whirlwind romance, we'd gotten married in a small ceremony 6 months ago. While Caleb's laid-back demeanor balanced my driven intensity, I sometimes worried we wanted different things. Small comments he'd made now felt like red flags. How he'd love his mom's home cooking again, how he missed seeing his parents every day. I dismissed them as sweet sentiments, but now feared they hinted at expectations I didn't share. My parents had been wholly supportive, thrilled to see their only daughter so happy. But Caleb's parents, that was another story. From our first meeting, his mother Eleanor's piercing stare and pursed lips told me she didn't approve. His meek father Don just nodded along with pursed lips. Caleb rambled on, oblivious to my dismay. "We have that huge guest suite, it's perfect. Mom's been dying to spend more time together, and Dad could use some looking after. This solves everything." I blinked hard, trying to process his words. "You already invited them to live here?" "Well, yeah," Caleb shrugged. "I figured you'd be on board. I'm so excited." He pulled me in for a congratulatory hug. I stood frozen, unable to return the embrace. My mind raced. How could he have assumed this was okay? Ambushing me like this, on today of all days? I pulled back, looking Caleb in the eyes. "Don't you think this is something we should have decided on together?" Caleb's smile faded at my tone. "I mean, they're my parents, and we have room for them. What's the issue?" I gaped at him. Was he serious? "The issue is that this is our home that I spent years saving for. You don't just get to invite whoever you want to live here without asking me." "Whoa, calm down," Caleb said, raising his hands defensively. "I figured you'd be happy about this. They're going to be your family too now." My blood boiled at his flippant response. I dreamed of a sanctuary with my new husband, full of laughter and intimacy. Instead, Caleb seemed determined to let his parents invade the space I'd sacrificed so much for. "I agreed to build a home with you, Caleb, not with your parents," I said bluntly. "We've been married for 6 months. Don't I deserve some say in my own home?" Caleb's nonchalant facade finally cracked. "Come on, don't be like this," he pleaded. "They're getting older. They can't handle being alone. Don't make me choose between you and them." I froze as his words sank in. He was guilt-tripping me, making me out to be the bad guy for not immediately agreeing to his thoughtless decision, for wanting a say in the home I'd poured my life into. In that moment, I realized that dream home suddenly felt more like a gilded cage, one designed not just for Caleb and I, but now under the watchful eyes of his parents. Surveillance masked as family togetherness. Maybe I didn't know Caleb as well as I thought, but I knew myself, and I refused to be trapped. The next few days crawled by in tense silence. I busied myself with minor tasks, avoiding eye contact whenever I passed Caleb in the halls of our not-so-dream home. The joy I'd felt moving in just weeks before had curdled into resentment. I knew Caleb's parents would be arriving any day, invited without my consent to stay for who knows how long. The thought of Eleanor and Don invading my sanctuary made my skin crawl. But Caleb refused to discuss it further, shutting down any attempt I made to set boundaries. "Can we talk about this?" I asked as we washed dishes together one night. "I'm not comfortable with your parents staying indefinitely. Maybe we could compromise on a trial period first?" Caleb sighed, not meeting my eyes. "You're totally overreacting," he mumbled. "Just give them a chance. They're excited to help us get settled." I nearly shattered the plate I was scrubbing. Help us? More like control and criticize us if Eleanor had anything to do with it. Before I could respond, the doorbell rang. Caleb's face lit up. "They're here." He dried his hands and rushed to let them in. I followed slowly, heart sinking. There went my sanctuary. I heard Eleanor's shrill voice from the foyer. "Oh, what a unique little house this is. So modern. I could never live somewhere so cold and boxy, could you, Don?" Don just grunted in reply. My hands clenched. I designed every inch of this home after years of effort and research. I'd chosen the clean lines and contemporary style specifically. This was my dream, not theirs. Caleb and his parents came around the corner then. Eleanor frowned at my yoga pants and t-shirt. "Well, don't you look comfortable?" she said with a thin smile. Caleb shot me a warning look. I forced a pleasant tone. "Welcome. We're still unpacking, so please excuse the mess." "Oh, think nothing of it," Eleanor waved dismissively. "We're family now, after all. No need for formalities." I highly doubted she actually felt that way. I turned to Caleb, avoiding Eleanor's judgmental gaze. "Why don't you show them to the guest suite so they can settle in?" Caleb led them down the hall, Eleanor critiquing the barren, neutral decor along the way. As their voices faded, I slumped against the wall and took a deep breath. This was only day one. Surely I could make it work somehow. Caleb was my husband, and they were his parents. Over the next few days, that optimism crumbled. Eleanor criticized everything, from my avant-garde interior design to my immodest lounge clothes to my exotic cooking. Don trailed after her, not saying much, but occasionally chiming in with his own disparaging remark. They commandeered the kitchen, taking over meal times. They helped themselves to anything in the fridge. They left messes without cleaning up. The structured routine Caleb and I had started establishing was utterly disrupted. My attempts to discuss boundaries only led to arguments. Caleb accused me of shirking my wifely duties of keeping his parents happy. He dismissed my feelings, saying I just needed time to warm up to them. The final straw came late one night when I overheard hushed voices in the kitchen. I crept closer, realizing it was Caleb and his parents. "You need to get her under control," Eleanor said sharply. "She has no respect for family." Caleb sighed. "I'm trying, Mom. This move was supposed to help her fall in line. She resisted at first, but I think she's coming around." I reeled, mouth falling open in shock. Fall in line? This had been their plan all along, to manipulate me into total compliance through this forced living situation. Rage roared through me. I had to take back control, starting by kicking these toxic leeches out of my home. The next morning, I woke up feeling like a pressure cooker about to blow. After what I'd overheard, any shred of optimism I had about making this work had vanished. I found Caleb in the kitchen and steeled myself. "We need to talk. Now." Caleb frowned, glancing around. "Keep your voice down. My parents are still sleeping." I crossed my arms. "Fine, but we're having this discussion." I led him out to the back deck and took a deep breath. "This isn't working. You need to tell your parents they have to move out." Caleb's eyes widened. "Are you crazy? They just got here. You can't just kick them out." My anger swelled. "This is my house that I paid for, and if I don't want them here, they can't stay." Caleb stepped closer, looming over me. "You're being ridiculous. They're family now, whether you like it or not." I refused to be intimidated. They have treated me horribly since the moment they arrived, criticizing my home, my clothes, my cooking. "Nothing is good enough for your Royal Highness Eleanor," I snapped. Caleb scowled. "You're exaggerating. They're just trying to help you be a better wife and homemaker. I thought you'd appreciate the advice." I gaped at him. "Help me? They've destroyed our home dynamic and undermined me at every turn." Before Caleb could argue further, we heard the back door slide open. Speak of the devil, it was Eleanor. "There you are," she said to Caleb, ignoring me completely. "Your father needs help programming the TV remote. This modern technology is so needlessly complicated." Caleb shot me a warning look. "I'll be right there, Mom." Eleanor nodded, then wrinkled her nose at me. "Oh, Jenna dear, you look so unkempt this morning. Didn't you have time to put yourself together?" I was still in pajamas with messy hair at 11 a.m. on a Saturday. Not that I owed her any explanation about my choices in my own home. I forced a smile. "Just focused on some other priorities first. Please excuse my appearance." She shook her head. "A wife should always present herself properly. Don't you agree, Caleb?" "Of course, Mom," Caleb replied. My fists clenched. I wanted to scream. After Caleb left with her, I took some deep breaths. Then I heard noises from down the hall. They were rifling through my office. I rushed over to find Eleanor sitting at my desk, Don digging through my filing cabinet. "What are you doing?" I demanded. They looked up, startled. "Oh, we were just looking for the takeout menus so we could order lunch," Eleanor said casually. I strode over and slammed the filing cabinet shut, barely missing Don's fingers. "Get out!" My voice was ice. Eleanor's eyes narrowed. "Now, that's no way to speak to your in-laws. We were simply—" "I said, get out!" I shouted. "This is my office, my private space. You have no right to go through my things without permission." They scurried out, grumbling under their breaths about my shrill tone and disrespect. As they left, I caught a glimpse of a paper on my desk, my bank statement. Boiling rage flooded me. They had been snooping through my financial records. These toxic, manipulative leeches had to go. Today. I had tried reason, compromise, patience. None of it mattered. They believed I was an obstacle in their plan to control Caleb and get their claws further into my life. Well, they had no idea who they were dealing with. I was done being nice. I would do whatever it took to cut them out of my home and my marriage for good. After the office invasion, I'd had enough. The time had come for drastic measures. I was kicking them out. I found Caleb in the living room and asked to speak privately. He reluctantly followed me to the bedroom. "Your parents need to leave. Today," I said bluntly. Caleb's eyebrows shot up. "You're insane if you think I'm kicking my parents to the curb just because you can't get along with them," Caleb spat. I held firm. "Either they go willingly, or I'll have them forcibly removed for trespassing. They have no rights here. This is my house." Caleb's face reddened with anger. "You would really have my elderly parents thrown into the street? What kind of heartless bitch are you?" His cruel words stung, but I didn't let it show. They're manipulative liars. All they've done is undermine and control me since they got here. I overheard you all conspiring to get me in line. I'm done being a pawn in your twisted family game. Panic flashed across Caleb's face. Clearly, he hadn't expected me to uncover their scheme. "You're imagining things," he scoffed. "They just want what's best for us." I rolled my eyes. "The only thing your parents care about is controlling you and isolating you from me. If you can't see that, you're more delusional than I thought." Caleb's lips curled in a sneer. "Careful, Jenna. Keep running your mouth and you'll force my hand." I stood tall. "Go ahead and play your hand, because unless they leave today, mine will be an eviction notice." His eyes bored into me, jaw clenched. For a moment, I thought he might get violent, but instead he took a breath and lowered his voice. "Okay, let's say they did leave. Then what?" His tone turned mocking. "You get your perfect little sanctuary back? Your precious home unsullied by my family?" I didn't respond, waiting for him to get to the point. "Here are your options." Caleb stepped closer. 1, you accept my parents living here gracefully. 2, I divorce you and take half. We sell this place and you start over. I reeled as his ultimatum sunk in. He would actually threaten to destroy our marriage, just to keep his toxic parents around. Any love I'd once felt for him dried up in that moment. "Fine," I said icily. "I'll have the divorce papers ready by tomorrow morning." Shock spread across Caleb's face. Clearly, he hadn't expected me to call his bluff. Too bad for him. I refused to be manipulated any longer, not even by my spineless excuse for a husband. I grabbed my purse and strode to the door. Caleb scrambled after me. "Where are you going?" he demanded. "To contact my lawyer." I slammed the door behind me, blocking out his sputtering protests. As I pulled out of the driveway, an immense feeling of relief washed over me. I was getting my life back. Over the next few hours, I talked to my lawyer and realtor. My name was the only one on both the mortgage and deed. I had full legal claim to the house. Financial accounts were separate, with no communal assets. Caleb had no leverage. His tantrums and threats were empty. The only tie binding us was a flimsy marriage certificate, and that would soon be shredded. I returned that evening with steely calm. Caleb's parents had conveniently made themselves scarce. Caleb appeared, contrite. "Look, can't we talk about this?" he pleaded. "I overreacted earlier. Don't do anything drastic." I held up the manila envelope from my lawyer. "The only talking now will be between our attorneys. Right, I'm filing for divorce first thing tomorrow." Caleb's face fell. For a moment I almost pitied him. He'd gambled on my compliance and lost everything. But I refused to be swayed by sentimentality. Not when my home, independence, and self-worth were at stake. He reached for me, desperation in his eyes. "Jenna, please." I stepped out of reach. "They'll need to be gone before the sheriff arrives to escort them out. I'll be staying in a hotel until then." Without another glance, I walked out. The dream home Caleb had lured me into was now just a crime scene. It was time to start fresh, without my failed marriage and without the in-laws from hell. The next few days passed in a blur. I split my time between my lawyer's office and the hotel, ironing out divorce details and avoiding the toxicity at home. My phone blew up constantly with calls and texts from Caleb, ranging from desperate pleading to vicious insults. His attempts to manipulate me back under his control only steeled my resolve further. I returned to the house once to check their moving progress. As expected, Caleb's parents were still clinging on. "You can't just throw us out with no place to go," Eleanor shrieked as I did a walkthrough. "I gave you fair warning," I said calmly. "You had plenty of time to make arrangements." Don scowled from the couch. "We sold our house to move here with our son, as he promised we could. Now where will we go?" I shrugged. "That's not my concern anymore. Staying here was never part of the deal." I left them ranting and went to find Caleb packing up the bedroom. His eyes were bloodshot, hair disheveled. The cocky arrogance he'd once radiated was gone. "Jenna, be reasonable," he pleaded. "We can work this out. Just tell me what you want." I paused, looking him over. The man I'd fallen for seemed like a stranger now. "What I want is for this toxic situation to end. My lawyer will be in touch." I started to leave when Caleb suddenly grabbed my wrist, hard enough to bruise. For the first time, I felt afraid. "Don't do this, Jenna," he hissed through clenched teeth. "You have no idea what you're starting here." Adrenaline coursed through me. I wrenched my arm from his grip. "Threaten me again, and you'll only make things worse for yourself," I said coldly. Then I walked away without looking back. Soon enough, moving day arrived. With police on standby, the hostile holdouts were finally extracted from my home. Caleb glared daggers at me as they drove away in defeat. I stood on the front steps, surveying the mess they'd left behind. Caleb had clearly trashed the place in spite and anger, but the feeling of peace and freedom was worth any amount of cleanup. As I began tidying up, my phone rang with an unfamiliar local number. I answered hesitantly, wondering if it was another bullying tirade from Caleb, but instead a cheerful female voice responded. "Hi, is this Jenna? Caleb's wife?" I bristled at being identified that way now. "Soon-to-be ex-wife, yes." "Oh." She sounded surprised but not unkind. "I'm so sorry, I hadn't heard. I'm Lucy, chair of the Neighborhood Homeowners Association Board. We wanted to check in on the situation." As she explained further, I realized word had spread about my in-law infestation, and the community was on my side. Lucy said neighbors had observed their rude, entitled behavior around town. Everyone was appalled when they learned of their unwanted presence in my home and the abusive way Caleb had enabled them. "You're so brave for standing up to them," Lucy said supportively. "Please let us know if you need anything. We want you to feel safe and welcome here." I was touched by the unexpected compassion from relative strangers. After feeling isolated and trapped for so long, knowing others saw the injustice of what I'd endured was validating beyond measure. Over the next few days, the neighborhood outrage became even clearer. I noticed people glaring when Caleb came to pick up more of his things. Friends he'd introduced me to stopped returning his calls. No one offered him sympathy or support. At first he seemed oblivious, ranting to me about their disloyalty. But soon enough, the shunning seemed to wear him down. I caught him sitting in his car down the street one day, head in hands. For once, he seemed to grasp the impact of his actions. Not just on me, but on how the whole community now viewed him. I almost felt bad seeing him so despondent. Then I remembered the months of manipulation he'd put me through. He'd brought this social exile on himself. As I reclaimed my home and independence, Caleb was losing everything he'd tried to build here, all because he'd gambled on my obedience to his family's cruelty. He was about to learn a hard lesson about karma's payback. After finally reclaiming my home, I settled back into a comfortable routine. The constant tension, headaches, and knots in my shoulders dissipated. For the first time in months, I could relax completely in my own space, until one night when a furious pounding on the front door jolted me upright. I crept to the window and peered out cautiously. My heart dropped. It was Caleb, with his irate parents in tow. "Open up, Jenna," Caleb yelled, still pounding. "You can't lock us out of our own home." I steeled my nerves and opened the door a crack. "I told you, this is my home now. You have no right to be here." Caleb tried pushing his way in, but I held firm. Eleanor clicked her tongue disapprovingly over my shoulder. "Don't be petty, Jenna," she scolded. "We left some things behind. Let us in to collect them." I shook my head. "I'll have them delivered to you. Now please leave before I call the police." Caleb snarled, shoving hard against the door. I couldn't hold him back. They streamed in as I stumbled back. "You can't keep me from my own house," Caleb shouted, getting in my face. "We had an agreement, remember? My parents live here or no marriage." Heart pounding, I stood up straighter. I refused to cower in my own domain. "The agreement is void now that we're getting divorced," I said firmly. "And I have full legal rights to this property. So I'm telling you one last time, get out of my house." Eleanor waved a dismissive hand. "You young people and your melodrama. You'll come to your senses eventually. Now step aside and let us by." They tried pushing past me towards the bedrooms. Adrenaline flooded my veins. I wasn't about to surrender control again. In one swift motion, I pulled out my phone and hit the panic button app linked to the security system, triggering the blaring alarm. Caleb and his parents clamped their hands over their ears, shouting in protest. I seized the moment of distraction to corral them back towards the entryway. Just then, flashing blue and red lights appeared outside as police vehicles pulled up, alerted by the alarm. The commotion must have also drawn the neighbors' attention, as heads started poking out of windows and doors down the street. 2 officers approached with stern expressions. "We received a panic alert from this residence. Is there a problem here?" Caleb tried to respond, but I stepped forward first. "Yes, officers, I need your help. My soon-to-be ex-husband and in-laws are trespassing after I've asked them multiple times to leave." I showed them the divorce paperwork and restraining order application. The officers nodded in understanding. "You 3 need to come with us," they said to my stunned intruders. Caleb protested loudly about it being his house, too, as they escorted the defiant trio out. Before the door closed, Eleanor shot me a chilling stare. "You'll regret this," she hissed. I stood in the doorway, heart pounding with adrenaline, but I held her gaze steadily. I wasn't about to show fear or weakness now, not after everything I'd overcome. This was my home, my sanctuary, and I would defend it against anyone seeking to control or destroy it. Or me. As the police cars pulled away, I turned to see my neighbors congregating, offering smiles and thumbs up. Lucy even raised her glass in a mock toast before heading back inside. For the second time, I'd faced down my tormentors. But this victory was even sweeter, knowing my neighbors had my back. I shut the front door, leaving the chaos outside. The police could handle Caleb and his parents now. I'd take back command of my inner peace. After all, karma had my side. And her payback wasn't finished yet. In the weeks after the showdown, I anxiously awaited retaliation from Caleb and his parents. But instead, what I heard surprised me. Rumors spread that Eleanor and Don had been rejected by every senior living facility they applied to, due to past behavioral issues. Forced to move far from family, they were isolated and miserable. Caleb's graphic design business began struggling too. Former clients pulled projects and refused to give referrals. His social media pages were flooded with scathing comments about how he'd mistreated me. Part of me felt bad as they faced the consequences of their actions. No matter how cruel they'd been, I hadn't wished such misfortune on them. But I also recognized this was their own karma, coming full circle. They'd tried manipulating me in my own home. Now they were the ones feeling powerless and adrift. Oddly, I found myself almost missing the daily drama and confrontation. The empty stillness of the house without Caleb was jarring. Building something from scratch had sounded energizing at first. Now the unknown path ahead seemed daunting. An unexpected knock at the door pulled me from my thoughts one quiet evening. I peered out cautiously. It was Lucy from the HOA. "Hey, Jenna, glad I caught you," she said warmly. "The neighborhood ladies were hoping you could come to our book club next week. We'd love to have you join us." I was touched by the gesture. "That's so kind of you. I'd love to come." As we chatted, Lucy gave me an update on the Caleb situation. She was on the HOA board for their new community as well, which had promptly evicted them after yet another dramatic run-in with security. I shook my head. Even completely uprooted, they hadn't changed their ways. At least I knew I'd made the right decision removing their toxicity from my life. Lucy and I soon fell into easy conversation. I realized how starved I'd been for friendship. I'd spent so long isolated, just trying to survive. Eventually, talk turned to my plans for the future. Lucy's eyes lit up as I hesitantly mentioned wanting to start a support group for women escaping toxic or abusive relationships. "Jenna, that's an amazing idea. You could help so many people who feel alone like you did," she said enthusiastically. Her encouragement filled me with renewed purpose. I dreamed of a sanctuary where people supported each other, not competed or controlled. Now I could create that myself. When book club night arrived, I entered Lucy's home with nervous anticipation. But the ladies welcomed me warmly, treating me as one of their own immediately. As we discussed the novel, one woman confided about leaving her critical, dismissive husband. Another described setting boundaries against intrusive in-laws. Their stories resonated all too well. Then they turned to me, listening intently as I shared a brief version of my own saga. The compassion and solidarity in their responses overwhelmed me. These virtual strangers had shown me more care and respect in one evening than Caleb's family had in months. I realized this must be what true community felt like. In that moment, my vision for the support group crystallized. I could channel my painful experience into helping build connections and strength. After book club, Lucy walked me out. "You're always welcome here," she said, squeezing my shoulder. I thanked her, wiping away a stray tear. Then I took a deep breath of the cool night air. For the first time in forever, it felt like home. Seasons changed, and life settled into a comfortable rhythm. My support group flourished, becoming a refuge for people healing from toxic relationships. Members celebrated victories, offered empathy for setbacks, and found strength in shared wisdom. Watching them bloom gave me a profound sense of purpose. I was determined to nurture this community so that no one else had to face hardship alone. With Caleb and his parents fading into a distant nightmare, I felt ready to start fresh. Lucy set me up on a few dates, which helped me remember laughter and romance. One night after a meetup with Andrew, a charming accountant, I came home to find Caleb sitting on my front steps. I froze, old anxieties flooding back at the sight of him. He stood up slowly, hands raised in a conciliatory gesture. "Hey, Jenna, I just wanted to talk, clear the air." Every instinct told me to turn him away, but he looked so haggard and defeated. I decided to at least hear him out. I crossed my arms. "Say what you came here to say." Caleb shuffled his feet, avoiding eye contact. "I messed up. I know that now. I was selfish and blind, and you have every right to hate me." His raw honesty surprised me. The old Caleb never would have admitted fault. "I let my parents manipulate me, and I tried doing the same to you." His voice broke. "You didn't deserve that. I'm so sorry." Part of me softened, seeing this remorseful, humbled man in place of the hostile stranger from before, but I couldn't erase the damage done. "You put me through hell," I said bluntly. "Your parents treated me horribly, and you enabled them. An apology doesn't change that." Caleb nodded, looking resigned. "You're absolutely right. I don't expect your forgiveness. I just hope someday you can find peace." He turned to leave. I thought of Andrew's warmth and support, the possibility of a partnership based on trust. A clean slate waited for me, but closure was needed first. "Caleb, wait," I called after him. He looked back, wary but hopeful. I chose my words carefully. "I appreciate you taking accountability, and I wish you well, but our paths diverged long ago." Caleb managed a sad smile. "I understand. For what it's worth, I'll always regret how things ended with us. Thank you for hearing me out." As I watched him drive away, an astonishing sense of calm washed over me. That painful chapter had finally closed. Later at book club, I told the ladies about Caleb's apology. They congratulated me on finding closure while still upholding my boundaries. "You're free of that mess for good now," Lucy said, raising her wine glass. The others cheered in agreement. Their solidarity never failed to lift me up. I realized then that the home I'd tried creating with Caleb had been an illusion. My true home was here, among these people who embraced me fully. Over time, Caleb faded to a distant memory. Meanwhile, Andrew and I grew closer, bonding over long talks, easy affection, and my awful attempts at cooking. One night, as we cuddled watching TV, Andrew gestured around my cozy living room. "You've made such a beautiful home," he said. I squeezed his hand, smiling contentedly. This house represented my resilience and independence, but it was the community I'd built that made it feel complete. Our home, I whispered.
If the ownership of this house isn't transferred to me, I'm contemplating a divorce. I was taken aback when my husband suddenly dropped this bombshell. This house holds precious memories of our family, and I can't bear to part with it. Despite my emotional attachment, my husband is threatening me, toying with my feelings. Distraught, I reached out to my father for help. I am Emily, a 30-year-old full-time housewife, dedicating my days to supporting and managing our household. I married John 2 years ago, and since quitting my job after marriage, my husband has been the breadwinner. However, our peaceful life took a turn for the worse after my father-in-law's passing, leading to my mother-in-law moving into our apartment. Surprisingly, I was informed about my mother-in-law's move the day before she arrived. Nonchalantly, my husband announced her impending arrival as if it were the most natural thing. It caught me off guard, and I questioned the suddenness of it. I forgot to mention earlier that my mother would also be coming to live with us from tomorrow. As soon as my husband came home, he casually mentioned her arrival, asking me to prepare and clean up. I was bewildered by the news. I thought she was coming over for a visit, but my husband clarified that she was moving in. The decision was made without any prior discussion with me, and the very next day, my mother-in-law arrived with numerous luggages. It's been a while. I'm glad you look well, Mary. Please come in, I greeted her. However, she seemed displeased for some reason. As she entered, she questioned why I didn't come to pick her up, emphasizing that it's common sense to meet at the station, especially when you know your mother-in-law is arriving. While carrying the hefty luggages, I didn't know what time you'd arrive. In that case, shouldn't you have contacted me? You're so thoughtless. I apologize. This is why they say some daughter-in-laws are useless and inconsiderate. Grumbling, the mother-in-law settled heavily on the sofa. Despite being a guest in our home, she acted as if she owned the place. I couldn't believe it. From that day on, her snide comments became even more intense. As soon as my husband left for work, the barrage began. Emily, why are you sitting there? Do the dishes. You should have finished the laundry in the morning. That's common knowledge. I'm sorry, I'll do the laundry once the dishes are done. You have the wrong priorities. In my house, it's a rule to do laundry immediately after breakfast. But that rule is just to do as you're told. Haven't your parents taught you not to make excuses? I had my own daily routine, and it seemed that Mary couldn't understand that I wasn't refusing to do the work. Even if I did things her way, she would still find fault and complain every day. The daytime hours alone with her were especially challenging. One day, I had an epiphany on how to end this living hell with my mother-in-law. The plan was to move to the house I inherited from my father and live in a separate home from her. My father retired early a few months ago, and my parents started a new life in the countryside. They then passed on their house to me. Fortunately, that house isn't too far from our current apartment, and we were planning to move eventually. Living with my mother-in-law had reached my limits, so I decided to talk to my husband about moving sooner. John, can we talk for a moment? What's up? Anything happened? Remember the house my father gave us? What do you think about moving there? Oh, that house. We did talk about moving there someday. Why the sudden decision? Well, I've been having some difficulties with your mother. She never mentioned anything, but I can't bear living with her anymore. That's why I'm seriously considering moving. Observing that the new place isn't too far, I suggested we move there, allowing my mother-in-law to stay in the current apartment. Surprisingly, my husband agreed to the move. After informing Mary, we decided to make the move a week later. Honestly, I anticipated some opposition from her, but she accepted our decision with a big smile. Goodbye, John and Emily. I'm so sorry for the sudden decision to move. Don't worry about it. It's wonderful that your father gave you the house. He's very sweet. Thank you. Please visit us sometime. Of course, it's not too far from here, and I hope you visit me regularly too. I will. After the conversation, I headed to our new home with my husband, feeling relieved that I wouldn't have to endure snide remarks anymore. I could now live freely at my own pace. Although I had initially feared Mary's opposition, consulting with John brought me peace. However, my peace did not last. Despite being able to keep my distance from my mother-in-law and reduce stress, my husband started coming home late. It wasn't just the late returns. There were days when he wouldn't come home at all. He defended his actions, saying he was worried about his mother, but it became too frequent. Without informing me, he went to her house, had dinner with her, and sometimes stayed overnight, disrupting my daily life. This can't go on, I thought one day. I sat him down for a talk. John, you've been coming home really late lately, and sometimes you don't even come home at all. Is that so? I'm just worried about my mother. That's not the point. At least let me know beforehand that you'll be late, so I'll know I don't have to prepare dinner. Since you're a housewife and always at home, you can eat the leftovers for lunch the next day, right? So you're saying I should just accept everything quietly because I'm a housewife. Are you saying we shouldn't talk about this? Isn't that the truth? Housewives just relax at home. What? What are you saying? Anyway, I'm worried about leaving my mother alone. Ellie will be coming back soon, and I need to discuss some things with her. Wait, Ellie is coming back. What does he need to discuss with her? Curious, I asked my husband. We're moving Ellie here to live with us. Live together? Yes, she kept saying she wanted a big house like the one she lived abroad. That's why I thought of letting her stay in this house. What? I don't understand. Suddenly informed of this, I couldn't think of anything. Is my sister-in-law going to live in this house? I had barely escaped from Mary's constant complaints, and now his sister, Ellie, was going to live in this house. I couldn't wrap my head around it. This was the house I inherited from my father. It felt unnatural. It's the only big house that would satisfy Ellie, my husband argued. The apartment where we used to live is now where my mother stays, and it's too small for 4 people. But I never intended to live with Ellie. I don't plan to live together either. I intend to give this house to Ellie, my husband declared. What? Why? Because we plan to move back with my mother. Ellie can use this house freely, he explained. I was taken aback by my husband's unreasonable proposal and felt like fainting. Despite my repeated insistence that I had no intention of living with my mother-in-law, my husband eventually became furious. Can't you be a little more considerate? You can live because of me, so just do as I say. Enough is enough of your jokes. This house is precious to me, inherited from my father. Why should I give it to Ellie? Such a wonderful house is wasted on you, isn't it? I've already told Ellie that I've got her a large house. It's too late to say otherwise now. I wasn't consulted in any of this decision. Either way, I can't accept it. You're always complaining. Enough. Calm down and think. I'll go back to my mother's for a while. My husband angrily slammed the door and left. Left alone in the room, tears streamed down my face. I couldn't understand why my husband decided everything on his own. It's unimaginable that he intends to give away the house I inherited from my father to my sister-in-law. Every day, my husband sent me messages asking if I had calmed down and to come back soon. Each time, I had to firmly tell him that I had no intention of agreeing. Then, one day, he said something shocking over the phone. Hey, Emily, when will you come here and live with me? Stop nagging. I've said it so many times. I have no intention of living with Mary. Moving there and giving this house to Ellie. I've already told Ellie. Stop being selfish. She might be coming back this week, so there's no time. Why should I give up my house for your family? I inherited this house from my father. Don't decide on your own. Who do you think you're talking to? Even my mother is furious. I'm at my wit's end. That's not my problem. You're ignoring my feelings, I responded. My husband let out a big sigh over the phone, clearly frustrated. Then he said something shocking. If you can't listen to me, then let's divorce. Hand over the house to Ellie. Leave by tomorrow. At that moment, my love for my husband quickly faded. Threatening me with the word divorce was utterly despicable. I couldn't possibly forgive him for using divorce as a threat without considering someone's feelings. I couldn't allow these people to have their way. Burning with anger, my husband continued to speak with a triumphant and dominating tone. Listen, if you don't leave by tomorrow, I'll really divorce you. Got it? Wait, are you serious? Of course I am. You don't have a choice. What will you do if you, a housewife, get divorced? You can't survive. Enough, I get it. Good. Hurry up and move over here. My mother is looking forward to disciplining you. He hung up the phone with a confident tone, thinking I would do as he said. After that call, I made up my mind and decided to seek help from my father for a plan. The next day, everything was ready for the move. I replied calmly when asked, "By the way, I'm curious about when Ellie will be back." "She'll be back tomorrow." "Why are you so obsessed with Ellie?" "Between you and me, she seems to have made a lot from stock investments." "I see. So if you provide her with a house, maybe you can ask for financial help." "That's so like you. Anyway, you need to leave that house by today. It's inconvenient for all of us." "Don't worry. I've already moved." "What? What do you mean?" My husband seemed genuinely surprised. "I knew it. You don't want to divorce me, do you?" "Naturally. Without an income, you can't survive. But all of this is coming to an end. We're still married now, so that's why we're talking." "Wait, what? I can only think about divorce now." My husband was clearly shaken by my words. "You promised to move out of that house, right, and live with me. But you've already moved?" "What are you saying?" "Of course, I won't live in a house with a husband who decides everything on his own and a bullying mother-in-law." "Why are you including me? You promised to move out for Ellie." "I said I've already moved, didn't I?" "I did as you said. Enough with the jokes." "Where are you now?" My husband's tone was panicky, and he was clearly losing his cool. "Actually, I'm at my parents' house." "Why?" "I moved to my parents' rural home. I don't plan on returning to where you guys are." "You should have told me that sooner." My husband replied with a hint of relief in his voice. "If I could just give that house to Ellie, it doesn't matter where you live. It would require $3,300,000. $3,300,000. I put the house I inherited from my father up for sale. And if you truly want to give it to Ellie, buy it for $3,300 and then hand it over." "Are you joking?" "I'm serious. The house was still in my father's name, so I asked him to sell it. In reality, what I asked my father for was to sell the house. My father had always said, 'If something happens, contact me. You can live or sell this house as you like. I'll help you.' As a result of the valuation, a price of $3,300,000 was proposed, which I gladly agreed to and put the house on the market immediately." My husband probably never saw this coming. He spat out insults, consumed with anger. "Why are you doing this without asking me? This is unforgivable." "I'm not asking for, nor do I need your approval. We're getting divorced soon anyway. I don't care. Do you understand your position? You'll be the one in trouble if we divorce. Since you don't have an income, you're just a housewife. I'd rather struggle on my own than be with you forever. Listen, Ellie will be coming back soon. I told you I'm relying on Ellie's money, didn't I? So what? Like I said, if you want to let dear Ellie live in that house, just buy it for $3,300,000. That is if you can." "What? That's impossible." "If Ellie has made a lot of money from her investments, I don't see why she can't afford it." "I don't know how much she made, but that's too much. She can never afford it." My husband was all excuses with no hint of an apology, maintaining his domineering attitude. I felt it was foolish to spend any more time on him and unleashed everything I wanted to say. "I'm done with you and this ridiculous mess. Did you think threatening divorce would make me give up the house? If you thought being a housewife meant I'd do whatever you say, you're so wrong. Hey, let's calm down and talk." "I am calm. Isn't it you who's panicking? I won't be controlled by you or your family anymore. Stay out of my life. Go to hell with your beloved mother, you mama's boy." I shouted loudly enough for the whole neighborhood to hear, then abruptly hung up the phone. Of course, I'd had enough of these insane calls from my husband, so I blocked his number. I immediately consulted my lawyer and decided to request a divorce. It took some time, but the divorce was finalized, recognizing my husband's fault. He and Mary still live in that apartment. As for Ellie, they couldn't provide the large house she wanted, and she was furious, claiming this wasn't the deal, and made a U-turn back overseas. My ex-husband's plan to seek financial assistance from his successful sister fell through. And now he seems to be struggling financially, having to pay me alimony and support his mother. As long as he continues to live with such a selfish mother, his life will never be prosperous. On the other hand, I've moved to the countryside and am enjoying peaceful days with my parents. I recently started a clerical job at a small company introduced by a neighbor. With that salary, I can live comfortably. I plan to live here for a while. I want to be by my parents' side as much as possible to repay the kindness they show me. Hey everyone, I'm Claire, and I want to share a chapter of my life that revolves around challenging relationships with my in-laws and husband. Currently navigating the complexities of a divorce, I thought it might resonate with those of you who've experienced unwarranted criticism from your in-laws. Let me take you back to how it all began. I met Zane, my now estranged husband, on a dating site when I was a 19-year-old college student. Zane, at 25, had a stable job. Despite the age gap, love blossomed between us. I've never been one to judge based on age or appearance, so Zane's age was never a concern for me. However, Zane struggled with our age difference. He often questioned, "Why are you with me, Claire? I don't understand. I'm so much older than you. You could find someone your own age who's better suited for you." Yes, I could, but I don't want to. I fell in love with you, and age doesn't matter to me. Zane, burdened by insecurities, persisted. "There must be other reasons, Claire. It's not natural for someone like you to love someone like me. I wish you'd tell me the truth." I am telling you the truth. I don't want to date boys my age. I love you, and that's all that matters to me. Despite my assurances, Zane struggled to believe me, revealing deep-seated self-esteem issues that may have contributed to his single status. Determined to prove the authenticity of my feelings, I embarked on a journey to demonstrate the depth of my love for him. Throughout our entire relationship, I refrained from letting Zane spend money on me. While I wasn't a broke college student, I wasn't rolling in wealth either. Despite my financial constraints, I made sure to buy him gifts and cover my own expenses each time. I held a modest job, so I wasn't destitute. Zane seemed to appreciate these gestures. Regrettably, Zane's low self-esteem persisted, and he continued to doubt the authenticity of my love. Despite my best efforts to be supportive and understanding, his mistrust shattered my heart. It wasn't until the first 2 years had passed that I discovered the root of Zane's self-esteem issues. Meeting his parents, Michael and Molly, shed light on his struggles. Michael, Zane's father, had experienced a stroke of luck, winning the lottery and dramatically improving their lives. They purchased an extravagant house and secured their future with the remaining funds. However, Michael and Molly carried an air of superiority. During our initial encounter, Michael boasted, "Not everyone can make it big like me. I was a hard-working man, and look where it got me. Do you know how uncommon it is to win a huge lottery? The chances are very low, but I did it on the first try." They took pride in their decision-making skills, insinuating that Zane, despite completing college, would never match their financial success. Molly hinted that Zane's previous partners were gold diggers, leaving as soon as their financial situation improved. The couple openly questioned Zane's ability to make sound choices. This attitude infuriated me. Zane's parents indirectly accused every girl he dated of being interested only in his money. Over time, Zane internalized these beliefs, contributing to his insecurities. The insinuation that I, too, was a gold digger became a humiliating part of the narrative. Fed up with the unjust assumptions, I decided to defend both Zane and myself. I declared, "I'm sorry, but I have to disagree with you. Zayn has worked hard to establish himself in his career, and with time, he will achieve even greater success. Michael rebutted, "Well, that doesn't change the fact that women only want him for money. The money we have is ours, but Zayn does co-own the house. Ultimately, it will be his when we pass. Let me tell you, every time they see our $200,000 house, I swear these girls see dollar signs in their eyes." I can't vouch for Zayn's past relationships, but I'm certainly not in this for the money. I love your son, and that's the reason we're together. I have no interest in your house. Don't worry, Claire. Sometimes it's challenging to accept that people can be successful and live in nice houses. You live in a small rented apartment with roommates. After spending time around our house, you might start desiring it too. It's just a matter of time. Michael and Molly's comments were pushing my anger to the brink. I was on the verge of exploding. Zayn heard it all but chose not to respond or defend himself, steering the conversation in a different direction. His nonchalant attitude surprised me. On our way home, I decided to address it with him. "Zayn, your parents are being unkind. They're insulting both of us. Why didn't you speak up?" "What did you expect me to say, Claire? I can't be certain they're entirely wrong. Women in the past have used me to try and benefit from my parents' wealth. They made grand plans involving the house and how it would be ours once my parents passed away. Even if they were gold diggers, that doesn't mean I am one too. You stayed silent when your family insulted me as well. You know my family is well off now. There's a chance they're right about everything. I'm not saying you had bad intentions, but I can understand why it might seem questionable. You don't have parents, so you rely on my inheritance alone. What you're suggesting is absurd, Zayn. I've never pressured you to spend money on me. And just because I don't have an inheritance doesn't give you the right to label me a gold digger." Zayn remained unwilling to acknowledge my concerns, insisting that he loved me, and the reasons behind it didn't matter. He shrugged off the need for further discussion. While some might have found solace in such assurances, I couldn't accept the thought of him harboring negative beliefs about me. I attempted numerous conversations, hoping to make him understand my perspective. I even suggested therapy, recognizing its potential benefits for him. However, he adamantly claimed there was nothing wrong, causing me to eventually abandon the effort. As time passed, I distanced myself from his family. We became engaged shortly after my college graduation, and although my job paid decently, I started saving to contribute to our wedding expenses. We split the costs evenly and got married when I was 22. However, the subsequent 3 years turned into a tumultuous period of my life. Zayn frequently visited his parents, returning home in a sour mood each time. I knew Michael and Molly were still taunting him and branding me as a gold digger. Despite my pleas for Zayn to limit contact with them, he continued to engage with his parents. Their words poisoned his perception of our relationship, convincing him that no one could genuinely love him. Even after years of love and care, Zayn remained suspicious of me. The burden of constantly proving myself became increasingly draining. However, the breaking point arrived on Zayn's birthday. In line with his preference for small celebrations, we had a quiet cake party at home. I presented him with the expensive watch he had desired. Zayn was elated with the gift, but my joy waned when he suggested visiting his parents to showcase it. Despite my reluctance, I accompanied him at his insistence. Upon reaching their house, Zayn eagerly displayed the watch to Molly and Michael. "Mom, Dad, look at this beautiful watch Claire gave me. I've been wanting it for a while now. Isn't it gorgeous?" "Oh, did she know, Zayn? It seems she does love you after all. We were quite concerned for a while there." "Don't get carried away, Michael. She's a gold digger. She married our son because we own a $200,000 house. Let's not forget the facts." "Yeah, you're right. I almost forgot that the house is the only reason Claire married Zayn." "Excuse me? Why do you think I married your son for your house?" "Well, you were just living in an apartment after working for 4 years. Besides, Zayn is so much older than you. Why would you marry him unless you want something from him? I'm sure our house was always an attraction, if not his money." I married your son because I love him. All your theories about my gold-digging intentions are wrong. Zane knows the truth, and he will tell you that, won't you, Zane? To my complete surprise, Zane remained silent. I was already feeling uncomfortable with my in-laws' belief that I was a gold digger, but Zane's reaction, or lack thereof, shocked me. He kept his head down and avoided eye contact with me. Feeling perplexed, I decided to push him a bit. I couldn't fathom why he wasn't standing up for me. Why are you not saying anything? Your parents always thought I was a gold digger. How will they know the real me if you don't tell them? Why are you quiet? Tell them they're wrong. I don't know what you want me to say, Claire. I don't know if my parents are off the mark. There might be a possibility that you're after this house. Are you serious right now, Zane? You believe I married you for your assets? He's not wrong to think like that. It's suspicious that you've never considered buying a house. You haven't even discussed it with him. For someone renting a place, owning a house should have been a priority. Yeah, it should be a priority, but you've chosen not to work toward owning a house. Our place is expensive, and you can't afford something like this even if you tried. So you decided to marry Zane and settle here. That makes more sense to me. I mean, why would you marry me, Claire? You might have feelings for me, but I think there's more to it than just love. I found myself speechless after this exchange. All the love I had for Zane seemed to have been reduced to nothing. At the end of the day, my in-laws and even my husband viewed me as a gold digger. While my in-laws' reaction bothered me, it was Zane's response that devastated me. In that moment, I made a decision. I wanted a divorce. I didn't immediately disclose my decision to them. I waited for the right time. So when Zane and I returned to our place, I contacted a lawyer and initiated the divorce process. The lawyer assured me that the papers would be ready within a week. In the meantime, I opted to stay in a separate room. Zane assumed I was just letting off steam and had no idea of what was coming. When the divorce papers finally arrived at my parents' house, I packed my bags and left. When Zane called me in a panic, I instructed him to come to an address and bring my in-laws along. Despite his confusion, he agreed. Upon their arrival, I was waiting on the porch. They looked taken aback by the house. I said, "You must be wondering why I brought you here. It's a beautiful house, isn't it? No one can compare their house to this. It costs around $2 million in today's market. Pretty expensive, but worth the money. There's also furniture with an added value of millions. What is this place, Claire? I don't know why you have access to such a house. Why don't you guys come in so that we can talk? I can't tell you everything on my porch." "What do you mean by your porch?" I brushed off their astonishment and walked inside. They trailed behind, even more impressed by the opulence within. The owners of the house had spared no expense. As we settled down, I took a deep breath and addressed them. "I've reached a decision, and that's why you're here. I filed for divorce. Here are the papers. We can proceed with an uncontested divorce if you agree." "What? I don't understand. Why are you filing for divorce?" Zane's voice held a mixture of confusion and concern. "Because you and your parents believe I'm a gold digger. You think I'm after your house, right? Despite my assurances, you refuse to listen. So I'll spare you from my gold-digging self and divorce Zane. It seems that's what everyone wants. You're considering divorce just because my parents told the truth. That's ridiculous. We didn't say anything untrue. Why the dramatics?" Zane's tone betrayed his disbelief. "I think this is for the best, Zane. If she's adamant, you should sign the papers. At least then you'll find someone who truly loves you." His mother interjected, her expression unreadable. "Why did you bring us to this house? Do you expect me to buy this for you as part of our divorce settlement?" Zane's voice carried a tinge of accusation. "Why would I need you to buy this house, Zane? This house is already mine," I replied calmly. The shock and disbelief etched on their faces hit me like a bomb. They regarded me with disbelief, as if I were joking. Zane and his family seemed utterly unconvinced. "How on earth can you afford a house like this? You're renting, and your job isn't enough to cover this. Stop lying to us, Zane's father demanded, his tone sharp with suspicion. I'm not lying, Zane. Remember when I mentioned that my parents left me some inheritance? Well, this is the house I was talking about. It's under a trust now, but I'll officially inherit it when I turn 30. I don't work a high-paying job because I have a trust fund waiting for me. That's impossible. Your parents passed away a long time ago. They should have let you have the house earlier. Well, you see, my parents were aware of the potential leeches I might attract. So they instructed me never to disclose the house or trust fund to anyone. Call it foresight. But they knew someone could exploit me. Hence, they placed everything in a trust to keep it safe until I reached 30. By then, I'd hopefully be settled with someone who genuinely cared about me, not my inheritance. Oh my God, Claire. You should have told us about your wealth. We had no idea. This is a sizable house you have. We could all live very comfortably here. Yeah, you should have shared that sooner. We thought you were after our house. We could have avoided all the misunderstandings. I'd always knew Claire was perfect for Zane. I've been saying she's a great woman. Look how wealthy she is. Zane really found a great match. Hearing this, I couldn't help but laugh. Their attitude toward me had shifted so rapidly that it made my head spin. What was even more bizarre was that they soon seemed to forget about the divorce filing. I took out the divorce papers and signed them. As I was saying, here's my signature for an uncontested divorce. You can just sign these to make it easy if you want to fight. We can take this to court. I won't live with you anymore. Claire, listen to me. There's no need to rush this. You've already proven you're not a gold digger. There's no reason to get a divorce anymore. We'll even apologize for any misunderstanding. That should make things better, right? Yes, Michael is right. We're sorry, Claire. We doubted you for no reason. I don't want your insincere apologies, Zane. For 2 years, you allowed your family to berate me and label me a gold digger. I expected you to at least defend me. But no, you sided with them and accused me of being a gold digger as well. I won't stay with someone who doesn't respect his wife. I'm done with you. We can part ways amicably or involve the courts. The choice is yours. Zane, Molly, and Michael tried their best to change my decision, pleading with me to let go of the past. In their minds, what happened was just a simple misunderstanding. Not once did they show remorse for tarnishing my name. Their audacity fueled my anger. When I reached my breaking point, I demanded they leave before I called the police. My anger intimidated them, and they left. Over the next few weeks, Zane and my in-laws continued to harass me daily. They begged, pleaded, and even offered bribes to convince me to stay. Their belief that I could be swayed with money only intensified my fury. It revealed that they still considered me motivated by financial gain. The irony was that, as Zane co-owned the house with his parents, I was entitled to half of his share. This realization fueled their desperation for reconciliation. Despite their attempts, I remained steadfast in my decision to part ways. I relocated all my belongings to my parents' house, asserting my right to stay there even before officially taking ownership. Zane and the in-laws persisted in reaching out, prompting me to change my number entirely. I wanted to avoid their constant attempts to contact me from unfamiliar numbers. Zane attempted to discuss matters at my workplace, but security was informed and asked him to leave. Zane still hadn't signed the divorce papers, holding out hope for a change in my decision. Nearly a year has passed since I initiated the divorce proceedings. With only a year or less remaining before the legal process concludes, I've managed quite well on my own. Living independently, I've found happiness and financial stability. While I've gone on dates, I'm not considering anything serious at the moment. According to a cousin of Zane's, they are apprehensive about paying me my entitled share of the house. Legal fees are piling up, and their savings are insufficient. Zane is even pushing for a sale, harboring resentment toward his parents for the upheaval in his life. At this point, I simply don't care and only want to be free from that toxic family. Why are you even in this house? You're like a parasite living off of us here. As soon as the words left my mouth, my mother-in-law wasted no time throwing my belongings out of the window. I protested her irrational actions, asking, "What did you say? Don't you dare talk back to me. Can you pick my stuff up, please?" I pleaded. In response, my mother-in-law put a knife to my throat, paralyzing me with fear. "Get out, or this won't just be a game anymore." "I understand. If that's the case, I'll leave immediately," I replied. She gave me a week to vacate the premises, and I showed respect, though I couldn't suppress a hidden amusement beneath my straight face. Little did she know that I was the one supporting this house. Despite the torment I endured living with my mother-in-law, the fear from earlier vanished. I thought, if you've got what it takes, then prove it. "I'll give you a week. I expect you to be out of here by then," she declared. "Thank you," I said, showing respect, though laughter lingered just beneath the surface. Hoping she didn't notice, I believed my departure would bring peace to our home. Little did she know, leaving her in the family home, I moved to a high-rise apartment. Eventually, she would learn the truth, but by then, it would be too late. I am Valerie Reynolds, applying my past work experience while working from home. It had been 5 years since I married Justin, expecting a peaceful and happy life. However, life took an unexpected turn when Justin had a construction site accident, resulting in the loss of most of the use of his dominant arm. Grateful that he survived, I found myself in the hospital room, tears streaming down my face. My mother-in-law arrived, seemingly oblivious to my presence, rushing to Justin's side. She suggested he stay with her, and I was taken aback by the proposal. When she noticed my surprise, she coldly questioned, "What's wrong? Do you have a problem with that?" "No, it's not that. It's just a bit sudden. With my son like this, I can't leave everything up to you," I retorted, irritated by her words. Justin, however, expressed his trust in me, saying, "Valerie has been working hard all this time. That's why I trust her going forward." My mother-in-law, displeased, made an inaudible noise, but she couldn't sway my determination. "Well, anyway, come to the house as soon as you're discharged from the hospital. Of course you're invited, Valerie. That goes without saying." I could predict what would happen if everything were left up to my mother-in-law. "By the way, Valerie, I'm leaving all the moving arrangements to you." "Everything." "That's a bit much," my husband chimed in. "It's too much for one person to handle alone. Mom, please help her out." I hoped he would insist more strongly, but it seemed my mother-in-law had no intention of helping and ignored my husband's words. "I have my own things to do, you know," she smirked at me, unnoticed by my husband. It felt ominous, and so began our life living with my mother-in-law. A month later, my husband was discharged from the hospital, and I was busy with the move, leaving the task of picking him up to my mother-in-law. She came to me and said, "Aren't you done yet? I told you today was Justin's discharge day, and yet you didn't even come to pick him up." "But that's because, you see, Justin," I started, but my husband interrupted. "Just like I said, right? This person only thinks about herself." My mother-in-law's intention was clear. She was trying to make me look bad in front of my husband. I decided not to take her obvious bait. Looking at my husband, he had a warm and understanding look in his eyes. "Come on, Mom, stop this. It's unsightly. I'm doing this for your sake." "Well, no one asked you to wait." The sight of my mother-in-law running after my husband was comically pathetic. When she noticed, she glared at me with an evil expression. Not that her glare meant anything to me. "Justin, you can just take it easy and relax at home from now on," I suggested. "That's impossible. My right hand might not work, but I don't want to be a burden on Valerie," he replied. "I can understand that, but you've just been discharged from the hospital. Still, I can be satisfied if I don't do something." Justin was adamant, and initially, I had hoped he would take some time to relax. But seeing his determination, I decided to respect his wishes. Doing everything at once might be too much, so how about starting with some light cleaning? It could be good for rehabilitation. "That's a good idea. I don't know if this hand will ever fully recover, but it's better than doing nothing. But on one condition, don't overdo it. Got it? I wouldn't want to be scolded. It's scary to make you angry. Justin acted as if nothing was wrong, making it clear that he didn't want to make me worry. So, I resolved to work even harder for the both of us. However, I had forgotten about one person who would interfere. Valerie, wait a minute. What's the matter? Why is Justin cleaning? You must have forced him to do it, right? Your words are just a front, my mother-in-law accused. She judged things only by what she saw, oblivious to the underlying thoughts and emotions. Dealing with that was a challenge in itself. You're always just cooped up in your room playing around. Honestly, in such a situation with your husband seriously injured. Actually, I'm working. It's called remote work these days. I've had enough of that excuse. It's not an excuse, I replied. Just then, my mother-in-law grabbed a nearby trash can and threw it at me. Luckily, it didn't hit me directly, but the trash went everywhere. I lost the energy to explain things to her further. It was clear from the start that she had no intention of listening. This trash is disgusting. Clean it up yourself, she said. As I sighed and started picking it up, Justin approached me and asked, Hey, what happened? Oh, this is just a small incident, I replied with a forced smile. But Justin seemed to have realized something. He usually appears calm, but sometimes he's surprisingly perceptive. Did Mom do something? Are you hiding something? Can you be honest with me? Justin was looking at me with a serious expression. Seeing his face, I felt that I couldn't lie, so I told him what had happened. Got it. I'll talk to Mom about this. Oh, it's fine. You really. But it's not okay. I'll talk to her properly. No, but that is. I was happy to get his help, but I was worried about what would come next. In the end, I would be the one blamed. I stared at the ceiling, deep in thought. Night came, and I thought Valerie was just playing around. That's not true. Valerie has been working hard, even doing my share. Then why were you cleaning? I offered to do it. I can't just sit around doing nothing at home. But you just got out of the hospital. I know my own body best. Justin's stern words silenced his mother. She might not have expected her son to speak to her like that. But if she really does think that she's above such things, she's just arrogant. I hoped that this would calm her down a bit. That day, Justin went out for rehabilitation, leaving me alone with my mother-in-law. As I was working in my room as usual, she showed up. Can we talk? Sorry, can you wait just a bit, about 15 more minutes? No, I can't wait right now. All right, I'm coming. I hurried along and went to the living room where an unknown woman was waiting for us. Excuse me, who is this? Have a seat first. We'll talk after that. I had no choice but to follow my mother-in-law, but I couldn't grasp the situation. As I was trying to figure it out, the woman started speaking. So this is the one you were talking about, the wife who just plays around without working? Yes, it's true. My mother-in-law was laughing eerily. So you realize that you're an unnecessary presence in this house. What are you talking about? Looking around, I saw them sighing. I didn't understand. Suddenly confronted by a stranger and put down as the target of blame. If I could, I would have left that place in an instant. Don't you understand? Unnecessary people are not needed here. What do you mean? Everyone answers that way. More perplexing questions followed. They kept insisting on how incompetent I was. Enduring such accusations could mentally exhaust anyone. Isn't it time you realized your place? Shouldn't I be asking you how dare a daughter-in-law toy her mother-in-law, spending time on such unproductive things? Isn't it a waste of time? What the nerve of a daughter-in-law, really now? I felt like I was reaching my limit. I didn't know what my mother-in-law would do if she got angrier. That's when I came up with an idea. Oh, isn't it about time that Justin comes back from rehab? Is it that time already? Just then, the unknown woman left quickly. I'll come again soon. Okay, I'll be waiting for you. Let's talk again. My mother-in-law and her friend were fooled. In reality, Justin wouldn't be home for another hour. It was just getting good. Speaking of which, who was that woman? I finally asked a question that had been on my mind. That's Susan, a close friend of mine. She wanted to meet you after hearing about you. It wasn't hard to guess how my mother-in-law had introduced me. Probably as a useless wife who does nothing but play around. I pitied my mother-in-law for doing nothing else but that. So that's the case. Well, Justin will be back a bit later. I'm going back to work now. As I was about to return to my room, she said, "Wait, what do you mean? Just as I said, he's not coming back yet." "You lied. You didn't realize. Why do you act like this?" I decided to use this opportunity to speak my mind. Any further interference from my mother-in-law would just be a nuisance. Actually, you were the one who started things, right? You called your friend because you can't do anything alone. That's not true. I can handle you fine by myself. Then why don't you try to see if you really can? I deliberately provoked my mother-in-law, thinking this would prompt her to take some action, and as expected, she reacted. "If you want to apologize, now is the time." "I have no such intention." At that, my mother-in-law exploded in anger, grabbing a nearby vase and throwing it at me, similar to how she had previously thrown the trash can. I had anticipated it and easily dodged, even showing a provocative smile. "Hello, I'm home." Just then, Justin came back. My mother-in-law was visibly shaken. "Why are you home already? It's not time yet." "Oh, sorry, I lied earlier. I was actually on my way back." "Why would you do that?" "Isn't it obvious?" I said, pointing to the shattered vase. I couldn't help but find the situation amusing. Hey, what's this? What happened?" "Your mom threw it at me." "What do you mean?" "You know, a lady just came over claiming to be your mom's friend." I told Justin everything that happened. He showed a mix of being surprised and angry. "Is that true, Mom?" Well. So it's true then. Why would you do that?" "I didn't mean to." Watching my mother-in-law being scolded, I felt a sense of retribution for all the hardships I had endured. "Well, I have something to do, so okay, wait." I ignored my mother-in-law's words and returned to my room, thinking this would end her bullying. I truly believed it. After that, calm days continued for a while. But having stayed up all night, I dozed off past noon. "Sorry to wake you, but can you come here for a moment?" "Okay, sure." Justin seemed unusually serious. My mother-in-law was there in the living room. "What's going on?" "Look at this." I looked at the table to find a disassembled plastic model scattered about. It was one of Justin's hobbies, and he had treasured it. When I came home, it was like this. "Do you know anything?" "No, I have no clue." I couldn't think of any reason for it. This plastic model was in my father-in-law's room before, but of course, I hadn't been in that room today, nor had entered it recently. Someone must have broken it for it to be like this. My eyes naturally turned towards my mother-in-law. She was the only suspect. My mother-in-law had a strange, eerie smile on her face, like she was possessed. I understood the situation. Even if someone broke it, I was out. I met Justin on my way back from Susan's place, remember? "Yes, but..." And then I found this in the room. My mother-in-law was holding a shiny object. "Is that an earring?" I instinctively checked my own ears. My left earring was missing. I was certain of my suspicions. It was clear revenge on me for last time. "This is yours, isn't it, Mallory? And it looks like only the left one is missing." I took a deep breath. Showing anger now would mean that I would be playing into her hands. Indeed, it's mine. But isn't it premature to conclude that I broke it? Making excuses is so unbecoming. We have evidence. Still, anyway, it's broken. Wait a minute. Justin left the room. At that moment, my mother-in-law's gaze was fixed on me. The situation made me feel like Justin saw me as a criminal, and I just stood there stunned. "It's a shame. This would have been the end of you if you did it. You set a trap, didn't you? You'll find no evidence anywhere. If only you had followed my advice, this wouldn't have happened." If I explain things to him properly, he'll understand, will he? Her words became reality. No matter how much I insisted to Justin that it wasn't my fault, he wouldn't take me seriously. Wait, I haven't done anything wrong. Maybe. I get it. He immediately averted his gaze. Laughter echoed from behind us. See? I told you so. What does that matter? It's sad that you don't want to admit defeat. After that, I immersed myself in work. It was almost like escaping from reality. Conversations with Justin became less frequent, and about 2 weeks went by. During this time, my mother-in-law seemed quite pleased with herself. You seem down lately. Is there something troubling you? There's no need for you to worry. Please stop. It's too late for that. Acting tough is useless. On this day, my mother-in-law was in an especially good mood. My feeling of foreboding came true, eventually becoming reality. It happened while I was cleaning the room. Why are you even in this house? You're like a parasite living off of us here. What's gotten into you all of a sudden? You always talk back, such a noisy daughter-in-law. After saying that, she threw my belongings out of the window. What are you doing? I protested her insane actions, questioning what had gotten into her. You're too noisy, always talking back. Can you pick my stuff up, please? I said, hoping for some reason to prevail. But as I said that, my mother-in-law put a knife to my throat. I was frozen in fear, unable to move. It's better if you stay still. A normal person wouldn't do this, I managed to utter, but my mother-in-law was clearly deranged. If you don't leave now, next time it won't be just a joke. I understand. I'll leave, I said, realizing that staying would only drag me further into her madness. You have a week. Leave before then, thank you. It was evident that staying would only worsen things. In her madness, my mother-in-law didn't understand who truly supported this house. She lived comfortably and leisurely thanks to me, yet she really knew nothing. Pack up quickly, she ordered, and I obliged. A smile formed on my lips as I bowed my head. But I couldn't let her suspect anything. I quickly composed my face. This will bring peace back to our home. I'm so happy, she remarked. But her happiness was short-lived. I couldn't help but think about the true hell awaiting her. After my mother-in-law had gone to bed, I explained the situation to Justin. I see. So it has come to this. Actually, I have something to tell you too, he said with a serious tone, surprising me. What? Yes, various things. We'll talk about it later, okay? His serious tone made me raise my voice in surprise, but he assured me we'd discuss it later. 3 days after being told to leave the house by my mother-in-law, I found a new place. Now the promised week was almost up. Well, today's the day of the promise. You understand, right? I asked Justin. Yes, the movers are scheduled to arrive soon, he replied. But when I inquired about Justin's whereabouts, he seemed to have gone out since the morning. Well, never mind. The thought of not having to see your face anymore is enough. I'm going out now. Make sure everything's clean, understood? I told my mother-in-law, smiling, though not genuinely. An hour later, the moving company arrived and loaded all my belongings. I contacted Justin. All packed up, got it. Just make sure you get there safely, okay? See you later, he said, ending the call. I was excited to think about what would happen when my mother-in-law returned. Finally, the moment of completing the move arrived. What have you done? Justin's belongings are nowhere to be found. My mother-in-law exclaimed. Of course, we moved out together. No way. Do you want to check with him? I got out my phone, set it to speaker, and handed it to my mother-in-law, who still couldn't grasp the situation. Justin confirmed the plan, leaving my mother-in-law bewildered. This was my plan all along, Mom, I admitted. Justin, what's happening? Tell me, she pleaded. Actually, about the model kit incident, we know that you did it, Justin declared, putting an end to her denials. There's no way Valerie would do such a thing, he added, defending me. Why do you think that? Because it was a gift from Valerie. She wouldn't break it on purpose, Justin reasoned. My mother-in-law was at a loss for words. realizing that she had been supported by the very person she had mistreated. Well, then, you'll have to manage on your own from here on out, Justin concluded. But I don't work. If you two leave me, that's the choice you made, she said, coming to terms with the consequences of her actions. Mom, it's no longer our business. Well, it's time for each of us to do our best, Justin remarked, ending the conversation. We felt relieved. We had hoped for a good relationship at first but quickly gave up. Now my mother-in-law chose her own fate. But why did you keep it a secret about that? What about Mom? It's like they say, deceive your allies to deceive your enemy, Justin explained. You can't mean enemy, I said in disbelief. We looked at each other and burst out laughing. Finally, we could have a peaceful life together. About a month later, Justin expressed some doubts. You seem down lately. Is there something troubling you? There's no need for you to worry. Please stop. It's too late for that. Acting tough is useless, I assured him. On this day, my mother-in-law was in an especially good mood. My feeling of foreboding came true, eventually becoming reality. It's inconceivable for someone lacking an academic background like yours to be involved in teaching, particularly since it could adversely impact her academic performance. Upon discovering that I was providing academic support to my niece, my sister-in-law directed her anger towards me. Sophia, why are you associating with someone like her? What if you end up like her? My sister-in-law seemed to perceive my presence as something detrimental, her cold attitude testing my patience. Amy, think before you speak. Who do you think contributes to our comfortable life? Isn't it because Mary works hard at home? In response to my mother-in-law's gentle words, my sister-in-law became even more emotional. Why are you defending her? Isn't it her duty to handle household chores? She's not just doing housework. She works hard and contributes a lot to the household. You just gallivant around without contributing. If anything, you should be grateful to Mary. Do you really believe she's working earnestly? I can't imagine someone like her being interested in essential tasks. My sister-in-law then impulsively grabbed my desktop computer and threw it out of the window. What are you doing? You're probably pretending to work hard without achieving anything. Leave this house immediately. I rushed outside to check on my computer, but it was damaged beyond repair. I had also lost valuable work data. Her immature actions genuinely shocked and disappointed me. I couldn't fathom continuing to live together under such circumstances. I had been tolerating it for the sake of my relationship with my husband and mother-in-law, but this incident pushed me beyond my limits. I left a message and decided to return to my parents. I am Mary, 29 years old. Last year, I started a new life with my beloved husband, Scene. Initially, we imagined living in a city apartment as we both worked nearby. However, Scene was always concerned about his mother's health, as she often experienced knee pain due to her previous job. Walking even a short distance required frequent breaks. Knowing this, we suggested living together. Upon hearing our proposal, she brightened up and said, "Mary, you want to live with us? I'm so happy." She's a genuinely kind-hearted person and warmly welcomed me. However, my sister-in-law, Amy, was fixated on academic backgrounds. During our first family meal, my educational background came up, and her demeanor changed. "Mary, you didn't go to college, right? Why would Scene choose someone like you?" She spoke to me in a somewhat harsh manner. "Sis, that's not a nice thing to say. Mary graduated from a national university, and Scene and I graduated from a famous private university. Couldn't you find someone smarter and more charming? What's the merit of marrying someone with a lower education?" My mother-in-law reprimanded Amy, saying, "Stop it, Mary." I'm sorry for the rude things she said, but I was already left speechless. I grew up with my hardworking mother after losing my father at a young age. Unable to afford college, I started working. In such circumstances, I was fortunate to work at a tax accountant office, and another opportunity came my way. My boss encouraged me, saying, Why don't you try getting a certified public accountant qualification, Mary? I believe you can do it. Encouraged by his support, I embarked on a new challenge, hoping to secure better job opportunities, increase my income, and better support my mother. My husband understood my aspirations and conveyed my efforts to my sister-in-law. However, she remained cold and indifferent. Despite my genuine intentions, my sister-in-law's words cut deep when she uttered, "If Mary becomes pregnant, I hope the child won't take after her and will be intelligent." These words struck me unexpectedly, making me question if my feelings stemmed from having only a high school diploma. Perplexed, I chose not to escalate the situation, refraining from further discussion. Subsequently, my sister-in-law would frequently mock me over trivial matters, commenting on my cooking speed or reminiscing about her university days during casual conversations, seemingly to taunt me. What bothered me more was that she imparted similar comments to her daughter, Sophia. Sophia, being a kind-hearted child, obediently listened to her mother's words. My sister-in-law had high expectations for Sophia, now preparing for her junior high school entrance exam at S Academy Junior High. Although my sister-in-law took a part-time role there without a teaching license, she did it to avoid additional responsibilities. In front of me, she would deliberately tell Sophia, "Let's work hard together for the future." Frustrated, I bit my lip, lacking the courage to confront my sister-in-law and not wanting to drag my husband and mother-in-law into any trouble. Despite our infrequent meetings, I told myself that enduring her behavior would be okay. However, an unexpected development awaited us one day. My sister-in-law suddenly arrived at our house, holding Sophia's hand, and casually announced, "Mom, I got divorced. We'll be staying here for a while. Please take care of us." Both my mother-in-law and I were shocked by this sudden news, questioning why it happened so abruptly. My sister-in-law responded with a sigh, stating, "That man was so annoying till the end. He incessantly complained about the smallest things and never listened to me, yet he decided to divorce just because of that." Before my mother-in-law could continue, she stopped herself. "It's not just that," my sister-in-law replied with a bitter smile. When I asked for alimony during the divorce, he only agreed to pay $600. After being together for so long, I was shocked by the amount. So, I thought it would be better to come back home where I don't have to worry about living expenses. Plus, I wanted to spend more time with you, Mom. She showed a slight smile and held her mother's hand. "I can live peacefully in this house." She then laid back on the sofa, scrolling through her smartphone, with packed bags and boxes scattered around the room. My mother-in-law and I were lost for words, watching this chaotic scene. A look of surprise and confusion was evident on my mother-in-law's face, and I shared those feelings as well. After a while, my sister-in-law handed me some of her clothes, asking, "Mary, can you wash these for me later?" I suggested that they should be sent to the dry cleaners, but she replied, self-centered, "You could do that much for me, right?" From then on, not only did her requests increase, but her troublesome behavior also intensified. One day, I discovered an oil-based pen stain on the laundry, which was clearly her doing. Upon seeing me sigh at the stain, she remarked smugly, "Oh, did I make a little mistake?" Then she added, "People with low education can't even do housework properly, can they? I wonder if there's any value in living for someone as useless as you." Her actions were causing my stress levels to peak. I reached my breaking point and finally decided to discuss it with my husband. "I work all day and still have to deal with housework when I get home. It's a real burden when she purposely makes things difficult." "I understand it's hard for me to see you going through this," my husband replied, listening to me quietly. He promised we'd find a solution together. That night, he confronted my sister-in-law about her behavior. My husband's warm words and actions always gave me a sense of security. However, from the next day, the harassment from my sister-in-law escalated even further. "You think he protects you, don't you? But to others, you just seem overly dependent. Relying only on a man doesn't make you strong. I don't have any intention of being depending on someone, being protected by them. To others, you might seem like a coward. Can't you stand on your own? Holding back my emotions became harder with each of my sister-in-law's words. Despite facing many hardships in life and taking pride in overcoming them, I couldn't stand being hurt by her words. Seeing my distress, my husband seemed wary from the constant confrontations with his sister and began avoiding her. However, my sister-in-law's harassment didn't stop with me. It began affecting Sophia as well. She was keen on getting Sophia admitted to S Academy and was eager to send her to a tutoring school. Sophia, what's this test score? You can't get into S Academy with these grades. I apologize if your grades don't improve. Maybe you will need to hire a tutor. But remember, it's up to how hard you work. Sophia, looking like she was on the verge of tears, nodded. She had already been going to a cram school every day after school, and getting a private tutor would make her lose any free time she had left. Feeling sorry for Sophia, I offered, "Do you want to study with me? I can help you with some things, really. Of course, I'm here for you." From then on, we started studying together, being careful not to get noticed by my sister-in-law. Although Sophia sometimes struggled, she grasped concepts when taught patiently. "Mary, I got 80 points on my test." "That's great," Sophia exclaimed. "You worked really hard." Sharing that success brought genuine warmth to our hearts. My mother-in-law, who noticed our efforts, sometimes cheered us up secretly by sharing delicious cakes with us. The time spent with her and Sophia became my healing moments. However, this peaceful time was short-lived. One day, while studying with Sophia, my sister-in-law unexpectedly returned home. Seeing us, she shouted, "What are you doing? You, with no formal education, are teaching her? I can't believe it. You might make her grades drop. Stay away." Furthermore, my sister-in-law slapped Sophia on the shoulder and yelled, "Why are you spending time with her? Do you want to end up like her?" The way she spoke about me as if I were contagious made my anger boil over. All the things I had been holding back just overflowed. As I told you before, I'd only graduated high school due to financial reasons. Judging someone solely based on their educational background is wrong. "What did you say?" My sister-in-law exploded even more. Hearing the commotion, my mother-in-law intervened, saying, "What's happening here? Mary is getting too close to Sophia." What if her low educational background influences Sophia? Do you know who's ensuring our comfortable lifestyle? Haven't you seen how hard Mary works at home? My mother-in-law's calm yet pointed words only fueled my sister-in-law's anger. "Why are you defending her? Anybody can do household chores. It's not just chores. She's working hard, contributing to our household. All you do is go out and play, indifferent to what's happening at home. You should be more grateful. Are you saying she has a proper job? I can't believe it." With that, my sister-in-law grabbed my PC from the desk and threw it out the window. "Why would you do that? That job you cherish so much probably isn't that big of a deal. Stop acting so pretentious. Just leave this house already." I rushed outside in a panic to check my computer, but it was broken beyond repair. It contained my work's vital data. Feeling anger and disappointment towards her childish behavior, living together with someone like this became impossible. For a long time, I had valued my relationship with my husband and mother-in-law, trying to protect our household. However, I had felt my limits. That night, I left a note and decided to return to my parents' home. The next morning, I received repeated calls from my sister-in-law, but I ignored all of them. However, within a week, my husband and sister-in-law showed up at my workplace. He strongly conveyed his apologies, saying, "Amy's completely wrong this time. Amy, please apologize sincerely." Though encouraged by Sean, her dissatisfaction was evident from her attitude. Why should I apologize? Sophia's grades have clearly dropped in her absence. Mary's presence must have been important not only for Sophia, but for you as well. Indeed, I had felt guilty deep down about Sophia's academic struggles. It seems there's no other way. Mary, come back home and support Sophia's studies. I never wanted to live with someone with your educational background, but I'll endure it for Sophia's sake. I had wanted to return for Sophia's sake, but her arrogant tone nearly extinguished that desire. If you truly care about Sophia's education, why don't you teach her yourself, Amy? You strongly recommended her to study for exams. So why are you neglecting her? I didn't want to be told anything by someone like you. Encouraged by Sean, her dissatisfaction was evident from her attitude. I encourage Sophia to study for exams because I don't want her to end up in a lowly position like you. Is that really all there is to it? I want Sophia to grow up to be an elite adult like me. I want her to graduate from a renowned university and build a career like the one I've established at the prestigious S Academy. She continued flaunting her own success. Unable to bear the exchange, my company's director intervened and tried to resolve the matter peacefully. Excuse me. I assume you are Mary's family. Nice to meet you. Yes, that's right. My husband greeted the director politely. I have overheard a little. I'd like to affirm that Mary has shown tremendous capability and contributed significantly to our company. Really? I never thought you'd hire someone with just a high school degree. Education doesn't solely define a person's abilities. Even compared to university graduates, Mary has been producing equal, if not better, results. My director's words left my sister-in-law with a surprised expression. Do you truly believe that? I think educational background determines one's status and value, the director responded. Carly, you mentioned you work at S Academy. May I have your name? My name is Amy Smith. You're Miss Smith. I've heard about your troublesome attitude and behavior. Are you implying Mary has been speaking ill of me? No, I haven't. I've heard about you from Mary, but I have heard about you from the principal and other staff at S Academy. Amy's eyes widened, clearly taken aback. Here's the reason. The director handed her a business card that clearly reads Academy Board Chairman. You're the chairman? Both my husband and I were utterly shocked, lost for words upon understanding the information on the card. Amy's demeanor changed instantly, her eyes filled with fear and surprise. I've heard about your behavior and issues within the academy, delegating your work, shirking responsibilities, and even discriminatory actions towards students. Numerous problems have been pointed out. In a panic, Amy responded, "That's not true." Of course, I was considering a direct response. Upon hearing this, my sister-in-law started to panic. I can't lose my current job. I just got divorced and did stuff to support my daughter and myself. She begged desperately, with a serious look on her face. The principal replied calmly but with deep understanding. Our school's policies and philosophies are clear. We cannot tolerate work behavior like yours. My sister-in-law was devastated and burst into tears on the spot. The next day, an official notice from S Academy confirmed that she had to leave the school. Unable to hide her shock, she returned home in confusion. Afterwards, she locked herself in her room, and occasional voices of anger and dissatisfaction could be heard. This situation started affecting the family dynamics. Her stress was often directed at Sophia, and the tension in the household grew day by day. How can you not even solve this simple problem for a sixth grader? This is unacceptable. You will not rest or sleep until you finish this textbook tonight, so make sure to get it right. Sophia had been studying under this strict guidance day after day, and her fatigue was evident on her face. I was worried she might follow Amy's path. Stop pushing Sophia like this. Think about what you're doing, my mother-in-law interjected, unable to bear the situation. Mom, shut up. I don't want to hear anything you say. Taking the situation seriously, my mother-in-law finally told Amy to leave the house. Amy, you can't stay here any longer. Leave now. Why should I be the one to leave? You're the one pushing Sophia to the brink and harming her mental health. If you care about her as your own daughter, leave this house now. I can't believe you're trying to take my daughter away from me. My mother-in-law asked the distressed Sophia. Sophia, what do you want? Do you want to stay in this house or go somewhere else with your mother? Sophia's answer was clear. I want to stay in this house. I'm scared to be with Mom. Shocked by these words, Amy lowered her head and cried. But my mother-in-law's resolve was firm, and she escorted her daughter out of the house. Reflect sincerely on your actions. What you did can never be tolerated. With that, my mother-in-law closed the door. Afterwards, my sister-in-law ended up losing her job and home. She tried various jobs, but due to her personality, she struggled, and her difficult life continued. With her gone, I returned to my mother-in-law's home and regained our peaceful daily life. Sophia regained her peace of mind and started to smile every day. When we learned that she wanted to continue her studies, we, as a couple, decided to support her. A year later, Sophia successfully passed the entrance exam to S Academy, as her hard work finally bore fruit. We felt genuine relief and joy. Now Sophie continues to work hard towards her dream of becoming a teacher, and we hope to continue supporting the path she has chosen. Receiving an allowance without having to tackle any household chores is a pleasant perk. However, the routine sarcasm from my mother-in-law, Julia, at 32, and working as a web designer often dampens the experience. Sharing a home with my husband Ethan and my mother-in-law has its challenges, especially considering our differing perspectives on work and domestic responsibilities. Originally part of a corporate environment, I transitioned into freelancing after marriage, a change welcomed by both my employer and me. The familiarity with my previous company ensures a steady stream of projects, sparing me the hassles of commuting and allowing a more concentrated effort on household tasks. Despite the satisfaction on both ends, my traditional mother-in-law doesn't share the enthusiasm. She harbors a belief in the conventional role of a wife as a homemaker, a viewpoint she expresses regularly. Despite my husband's attempts to reason with her, asserting that contemporary couples support each other, my mother-in-law remains resistant. According to her, my freelance work is merely a side job that doesn't contribute significantly to the household finances. Balancing my web design work with household chores during my free time hasn't impressed my mother-in-law. Her dissatisfaction stems from the stark contrast between my non-traditional approach and her expectations of a more conventional housewife. In her eyes, I may be perceived as the outsider who, in her mind, stole her only son. Since my husband's father passed away 5 years ago, my mother-in-law has become increasingly dependent on him. While this seems to slightly bother my husband, there's a subtle satisfaction in his acknowledgement of her reliance. Our current residence, acquired by my late father-in-law 30 years ago, now solely belongs to my mother-in-law. The mortgage was settled through life insurance, and the house layout conveniently accommodates our small family, providing me with a suitable workspace. Despite the occasional tension, our home becomes a gathering place for my mother-in-law's friends, who have been part of the neighborhood for over 3 decades. When her friends come over, the dynamics in the house take on a different tone. Taking a break from my work, I play the role of a gracious hostess to my mother-in-law's friends, offering them coffee and sweets. Yet every gathering of similarly aged women inevitably transforms into a session of complaints about their daughters-in-law. In the midst of such discussions, I can't help but chuckle as they detail their grievances. My daughter-in-law, they say, frequently returns to her parents' house over trivial matters, spending half the year away from us. According to them, she is financially irresponsible, causing even our son to be at a loss about how to handle her financial habits. Debt collectors have even paid us visits, they lament. The conversations in my workspace often take a humorous turn, with my mother-in-law's friends seemingly competing over who has the most challenging daughter-in-law. Rarely do they praise their daughters-in-law. If, by chance, one of them offers a compliment, "Your family's daughter-in-law is wonderful. She manages the household while working," my mother-in-law responds with a disgruntled expression, dismissing my work as nothing more than a side job. Amidst the laughter and gossip, my mother-in-law loudly questions the worth of my job, wondering aloud how much I actually earn. The discussion shifts to the spending habits of daughters-in-law, contrasting their personal expenses with the notion that the husband's earnings are meant for the family. The room erupts in laughter at this notion, reminiscing about the unthinkable nature of such discussions in their younger days. Unable to endure the repetitive tales of the past, I drown out the noise with headphones, focusing on my work. The modern-day daughter-in-law, myself included, often becomes the target of belittlement, making it unbearable to listen. One day, during a family dinner, my husband suggested buying a new car. My mother-in-law, quick to react, questioned why he needed his wife's consent for such decisions. Despite my husband's attempt to explain that it's a family decision, my mother-in-law insisted that he, the one with a driver's license, should choose any car he likes. Caught in the middle, my husband sought my help, and I diplomatically deferred the decision to him. The incident highlighted the ongoing dynamic where my husband always consults both me and my mother-in-law before making significant decisions, a practice my mother-in-law staunchly defended. While not inherently self-centered, my father-in-law had a penchant for making independent decisions, a trait my mother-in-law often lamented. My husband, raised by such parents, developed a belief in avoiding selfishness. On the contrary, my mother-in-law, influenced by the patriarchal behavior of my father-in-law, adhered to the notion that it was the norm. My mother-in-law's irritation towards my husband when he seeks my opinion circles back to me, with accusations that I am always too strict. I found myself at a loss for words in response to her criticism, as it's true that I tend to voice my concerns rather than making decisions independently. To my surprise, my husband, aligning with his mother, blamed me for his inclination to check with me before acting. Months into our marriage, I realized that my husband never defended me in front of his mother, even when it was just the two of us. His apologies and claims of prioritizing me seemed less convincing over time. The recent incident of choosing a new car cast a shadow on our relationship. Initially considerate, my husband ultimately failed to support me in front of his mother. Concerns about our future together began to surface, and I pondered alternatives to the current dynamics. I wished my husband would not mistake indecisiveness for kindness, and I longed for my mother-in-law to express her thoughts more directly. A month later, my husband's new car arrived, and the enthusiasm was palpable. The joyous invitation for a drive and the admiration from my mother-in-law turned sour when the cost was revealed: $660,000. Shocked by the extravagant choice, I confronted my husband about the financial implications, only to receive nonchalant responses and an offer to use a loan. My mother-in-law, quick to defend my husband, criticized my complaints about the expenditure, stating that I had given him the freedom to decide. Frustrated, I questioned the feasibility of affording such a luxury, only to be met with my mother-in-law's sharp retort: "It's not like you're paying, so you have no right to complain." Feeling unheard and dismissed, I argued that I contribute to the family income through my work. However, my mother-in-law, with an unusual harshness, questioned the legitimacy of my earnings, asserting that my little side job couldn't possibly match my husband's substantial income of over $100,000 a year. She regarded me with contempt, and just as I was about to assert that my earnings supported us, I noticed my husband had disappeared. Tolerating this treatment for too long, I reached my limit. My mother-in-law's declaration, "A daughter-in-law like you should just get out," echoed in my ears. It wasn't only her putting up with things, and discussing my salary seemed trivial now. Angry at her words and disappointed by my husband's indifference, I felt he was to blame for our dispute, given his usual indecisiveness. Fed up, I declared, "Understood then. I will leave," and headed to my workspace to pack up my computer and essentials. As I left the house, I informed my mother-in-law that I would return for the rest of my belongings later. Her angry gaze followed me, while my husband remained unseen in his room. As my mother-in-law screamed, "When you step into this house again, it will be after signing the divorce papers," I left without responding. Her abusive words, a first-time experience, bewildered me, but I chose not to engage further. Leaving my husband's house, I sought refuge at my parents' home. Surprised, my mother inquired about what had happened. Unable to specify, I lamented my lack of judgment and how my husband, who once cherished me deeply, had changed. Sharing the interactions with my husband's family with my parents brought some relief. With no children in the picture, my mother advised me to consider divorce sooner rather than later, given my financial independence. Over the weekend, with my father's help, I moved my belongings out of my husband's family home. My husband and mother-in-law remained elusive. Standing in front of my husband's room, I quietly spoke, "You took care of me for a long time. Can you sign the divorce papers?" Slipping the documents under the door, I heard his indifferent voice, "I've signed it. We're done here." As the divorce papers were returned to me, ending my marriage without a word to my mother-in-law left me with a lingering sense of sadness. After 2 years in a house filled with few happy memories, I decided to quietly leave and head to the city office to submit the divorce papers. If a piece of paper could resolve everything, then all the better. The plan was to stay at my parents' house for the time being and continue my work there as I prepared to embark on a new life alone. As I geared up for this solo journey, my mother suggested I stay with them for a while, stating it would be less worrying than living alone. My father, too, voiced his concerns, warning that Ethan and his mother could unpredictably show up at my place. Although I initially considered such scenarios unlikely, life at my parents' home proved comforting. Thankfully, my job flexibility allowed me to work from anywhere, so I decided to extend my stay at my parents' house for a while. 2 months passed, and just as my ex-husband and mother-in-law were fading into distant memories, an unknown number flashed on my phone. Initially hesitant, I thought it might be a mistake, but after repeated calls, I answered only to find my ex-husband's frantic voice on the other end. "Why didn't you answer the phone?" he asked, sounding confused, ready to end the call. I responded that since there was no need for us to interact anymore, I would hang up. His next question caught me off guard. "Wait a minute, why isn't my smartphone working?" Without much interest, I suggested he contact the mobile phone company. However, a sudden realization struck me, and I inquired if he had been depositing money into the bank account. I used to deposit my salary, along with his, into our joint account, but it was always short due to the performance-based nature of his health product sales job. Normally, I would deposit money at the end of the month, but for the past 3 months, only his salary had been deposited. As the pieces fell into place, I left in the middle of the month, and the new car's loan payments might have kicked in. My ex-husband remained silent. "I've been managing the household with my income up to now. From now on, please manage your own living expenses," I calmly asserted over the phone. Inwardly, I felt the urge to say, "You reap what you sow," but I chose to refrain and quietly ended the call. It occurred to me that my ex-husband had never disclosed his true income to his mother. It seemed she was unaware that our post-marriage livelihood was predominantly based on my salary. Perhaps my ex-husband was too ashamed to admit that his wife earned more than he did. Despite the general knowledge that basic utilities like electricity and water aren't easily cut off, it became evident that mobile phone service could be the first to go. One holiday morning, the house intercom insisted, signaling trouble. My father sternly informed someone at the front door, "We don't want to be involved with you anymore. Please leave." Sensing something serious, I rushed to the entrance with my mother. My former mother-in-law's voice sounded from the intercom, requesting a moment to talk. Tensing up, I faced her, and just as my father predicted, she had come to our home. Anger filled her face as she exclaimed upon seeing me. She blamed me for not making the monthly deposit, resulting in the electricity and water being cut off. We were all stunned by this revelation, unsure of what she meant. My ex-husband, attempting to intervene, declared, "Mom, stop it. Julia is no longer involved with us." However, his mother brushed off his hand, continuing her rage. "Ethan earns $5,000. How can this happen?" I corrected her quietly, revealing that the $5,000 was actually my income. Shocked by my declaration, she turned to my ex-husband. He admitted, almost inaudibly, that his take-home pay was about $500. My former mother-in-law stared at me in astonishment, and I clarified that my income was not just from an allowance but a regular job. She then asked about Ethan's take-home pay, and he responded, about $500. After a moment of silence, she made an unbelievable proposition. Julia, how about coming back? It was a joke to ask you to leave. Firmly refusing, I stated that we were already divorced, and it was no longer my concern. Despite my refusal, she persisted, suggesting that everything could be resolved if I got back with Ethan. My father, in a forceful tone, demanded they leave and warned of involving the police if they didn't. They left hurriedly, stumbling away as my father warned them not to step foot in our home again. Reflecting on their unreasonable behavior, my mother was furious, but my father seemed even more indignant. I was relieved that we had cut ties with such people. As time passed, through a friend of my ex-husband's, I learned about his subsequent situation. He had to give up his parents' house, including the land, and moved into a small apartment with his mother. The rarely used new car was sold, settling the remaining loan with the money from the house and land sale. Despite the loan being paid off, my ex-husband squandered money on gambling, and his whereabouts became unknown. My former mother-in-law was diagnosed with dementia and now resides in a nursing home. Meanwhile, I am doing well in my job and currently live alone. Recently, I started dating a man I met through work. He understands that I was previously married, and he is committed to his job, not relying on his spouse's income or indulging in extravagant purchases like my ex-husband did. While we haven't discussed marriage explicitly, I feel that we have a serious future together. I am Nancy, and I have an older brother named Keith who is 7 years my senior. Keith has always been academically exceptional since childhood, consistently delivering top-notch performances. He graduated from a prestigious high school and university, making our parents immensely proud. However, the constant praise and high expectations seemed to shape his personality in an unexpected way as he grew older. After completing his education and securing a new job, Keith decided to leave our family home. During his departure, he sarcastically remarked about being unable to endure the mundane life in our house any longer. I can vividly recall the mixed emotions on our parents' faces at that moment, surprise and the hint of sadness. In the past, Keith was a cheerful and cherished member of the family. Personally, I felt a twinge of anger. I never excelled academically or in sports like my brother did. My high school wasn't super prestigious, but I valued the warmth and love within our family. Both Keith and I owe our lives to our parents' support. It saddened me that he seemed to overlook the importance of our family bonds. As a child, Keith was my hero, handling everything perfectly and caring for me. However, as I approached graduation from high school, he began questioning the need for higher education and dismissed my pursuits. When confronted by our parents, he blamed them for his changed attitude. Despite the challenges, I persevered, entering a national university and securing a job at my dream company. My parents' encouragement helped shape me into a kind-hearted person. However, my brother's life took a different turn. He was already married, and neither my parents nor I had met his wife. One day during work hours, I received an unexpected call from my mother. Worried about the unusual call, I stepped outside to answer discreetly. My mother's voice, softer than usual, revealed that my father had suddenly fallen ill. Distressed by the news, I immediately informed my supervisor, rushed to the hospital, and hoped for the best. Entering the waiting room, I was met with my mother in tears, desperately seeking comfort. Anxious, I asked, "What happened, Mom?" I anxiously sat beside my mother, struggling to comprehend how my father, who seemed perfectly fine that morning, had suddenly ended up in this condition. My words tumbled out one after another as I asked the question that refused to settle in my mind. After a brief pause, my mother quietly uttered, "Your father has been diagnosed with cancer." Time seemed to freeze as the weight of her words sank in. The surprise and anxiety within me spilled out in my voice. My mother took a deep breath and, with a tone heavy with sadness, continued, "It's stage 4. The cancer has spread to the bile duct, and they said it's hard to remove it all." Her tears flowed uncontrollably, and I struggled to find words as I listened to this devastating news. Seeking a glimmer of hope, I inquired about the next steps in treatment. My mother nodded somberly, and after a short pause, the attending physician arrived to explain the detailed condition and treatment options. The grim reality hit us as we learned that the illness had progressed more than expected, with confirmed metastasis to other parts. The doctor conveyed the significant risks of surgery and the uncertainty of success. My mother and I, holding hands, tried to come to terms with this harsh reality. The doctor's matter-of-fact words emphasized the gravity of the situation. We were faced with crucial choices: continuing with chemotherapy or opting for support in a palliative care ward. The heavy silence in the waiting room was broken only by the ticking of the clock's second hand. As tears quietly streamed down my mother's face, I pondered how to approach the situation. Despite the challenging circumstances, necessary discussions needed to take place. Realizing the importance of including my brother Keith, I suggested contacting him immediately to make a decision together. With a forced smile, my mother admitted that she had already informed Keith, but he hadn't responded. Recalling my brother's nature and past events, I had a premonition of his potential reaction. Keith tended to get upset when seeking help, avoiding tough decisions. Determined to involve the entire family in this critical decision, I persisted in calling him. After more than 10 attempts, I finally heard my brother's slightly irritated voice. "Why do you keep calling me?" he snapped. Urgently and anxiously, I explained Dad's condition, questioning why he hadn't come to the hospital despite being informed. His response lacked empathy or understanding, shaking me to the core. Unmoved by the gravity of the situation, he dismissed it as unnecessary concern, stating, "There's no point in discussing further. I'm hanging up." Stunned, I was left reeling from the exchange. I found myself in a state of bewilderment, unable to conceal my astonishment at my brother's indifference. I was aware of his lack of a sense of family bond and gratitude, but the extent of his detachment was beyond what I had anticipated. When I returned to my mother, a look of concern was evident on her face. In response to her inquiry about what happened, I explained that it seemed he was quite busy, avoiding the details. My mother sighed deeply, murmuring that it would have been comforting if Keith was here. My father, choosing to spend his final moments in a palliative care ward, quietly passed away a few months after that decision. I conveyed this somber news to my brother over the phone and provided details of the wake and funeral. However, his response was cold, stating he was too busy with work to attend, urging us to proceed without him. True to his word, he didn't appear at our father's wake or funeral. Even my mother seemed shocked by this fact, likely never imagining her son wouldn't show up for his father's funeral. Both family and acquaintances expressed surprise and disappointment at his absence. After the funeral, in a moment of quiet reflection amongst the family, my mother sighed deeply, muttering to herself that he really didn't come. I took her hand and reassured her, saying firmly, "Mom, let's not worry about him anymore. We have to let him walk his path. For now, let's cherish our memories of Dad." My mother tightly squeezed my hand in response, smiling and saying, "Thank you." Unexpectedly, the next day, my older brother appeared at the apartment where we live. His usual expression was replaced with an urgent restlessness. Without any greeting, he demanded to know, "Where is the inheritance Father left behind?" Shocked by his demand, I emotionally retorted, expressing disbelief at someone who didn't even attend the funeral now making such inquiries. Visibly irritated, my brother snapped at me, saying, "The kid should stay quiet," creating a tense atmosphere. Attempting to calm the situation, my mother explained that, apart from the apartment, our father didn't leave much behind. She presented my father's passbook on the table, flipping through it to reveal that all the savings were transferred to a different account. My brother, taken aback, asked in surprise. "What is this all about?" Gently, my mother replied, "Your father instructed to move all the money to my account earlier. Also, this apartment's name has been changed, and now it's in my name." Left speechless, my brother clicked his tongue in frustration and left. Watching his departing figure, we were once again filled with admiration and gratitude for our father's foresight and his plan to protect the family. A few months later, my mother unexpectedly fell and was rushed to the hospital. The family was filled with shock and concern upon learning that she had pneumonia in a more advanced stage than initially thought. Despite feeling relieved when she was diagnosed with a minor cold at a small clinic, detailed examinations at a major hospital revealed a much more severe condition with only about 3 months to live. Hearing this news left me at a loss for words. I found it hard to believe, especially considering how healthy she appeared. Tragically, just a few days after the 3-month mark, my mother quietly passed away. The absence left behind an indescribable stillness and sorrow. Filled with guilt and grief, I questioned why I hadn't noticed sooner or taken her to a larger hospital immediately. Even after learning about my mother's pain, my brother showed no signs of coming to our house. My aunt, my mother's sister, and I handled the arrangements for the wake and the funeral. Understandably, it was a significant shock for my aunt that my brother didn't appear at our mother's last rites, just as he hadn't for our father's. Although my aunt was extremely outraged, I felt that expecting anything or saying anything to my brother was meaningless, recalling his past actions. However, a few days after the funeral, as my aunt and I were sorting out the heirlooms, my brother appeared again, accompanied by his wife, whom we were meeting for the first time. "Where's Mom's inheritance? She must have left something, right?" My brother brought up this question from the beginning. I was both shocked and dumbfounded. My aunt, equally stunned, stared at him in disbelief. The most astonishing thing was that beside my brother stood his wife, my new sister-in-law, whom neither met our eyes nor greeted us, just standing silently next to my brother. Even more shocking was that my brother did not even visit our mother's grave. "Brother, please at least pay your respects to our parents. At the very least, visit Mom's grave," I said calmly. With a sneering laugh, my brother responded, "Does that even mean anything?" He quickly followed with, "By the way, how much of Mom's inheritance is left?" At that moment, May's expression changed drastically. In a voice filled with anger, contrasting with her usual warmth, she sternly admonished Keith, "How can you think of such things at a time like this? Nancy is managing the funeral on behalf of both of you, putting in all her effort. Shouldn't you act with a bit of gratitude, thinking of your parents?" Ignoring our aunt's anger, my brother responded dismissively, "Auntie, it's none of your business. Don't interfere." With these demands from my brother and sister-in-law, the atmosphere in the room became cold and tense. Behind my brother, my smiling sister-in-law said, "Of course. I remember your name, Nancy. Do you plan to keep all of your mother's inheritance for yourself?" "Sorry, but we can't allow that. This apartment is so lovely. I think it's perfect for us." I never imagined that my brother and his wife would say such things. "Why should I have to leave for the sake of both of you?" I asked, my voice quivering. While twirling her finger, my sister-in-law continued, "This apartment has just been renovated, and its location is amazing. It's close to the station, and there are plenty of shops, so we'll be living here." At the peak of my anger, I confronted my big brother, asking, "All you care about is the inheritance. What are you thinking?" Unable to hold back, I raised my voice, turning away. My brother let out a heavy sigh. Such vulgar behavior. "Do you think raising your voice solves everything? We'll be back here in 3 days. Have everything ready to move out by then." With those words, their intentions became crystal clear. A mix of my anger and sadness bubbled up, and I couldn't stop my tears from flowing. But this wasn't just a one-time event. I had to think about what to do next. Determined, I wiped my tears, and my aunt gently tapped my shoulder, handing me a letter. The delicate handwriting of my mother adorned the envelope's surface. "What's this, Auntie?" I cautiously opened the envelope, my aunt explaining, "Your mother entrusted this to me for a just-in-case scenario. She told me to give it to you at the right moment." Tears formed in her eyes as I unfolded the paper inside. My mother's beautiful handwriting filled the page. "To my precious Nancy, if you are reading this letter, it means I'm no longer in this world. I'm truly sorry for our parting," it began. A warmth filled the back of my eyes, tears beginning to flow. The letter continued, "You might have Keith visit the house concerning the inheritance, but don't worry, everything that your father handed down to me is now yours." I was at a loss for words, unaware that my mother had thought this far ahead and prepared everything in advance. The letter expressed her apologies for leaving me alone suddenly, but mentioned she was at peace, having witnessed how much I had grown into a wonderful person. While learning is essential, it's not everything. The kindness and compassion you learn through your interactions with people hold the most value, she wrote. Expressing pride in me, my mother stated, "Your father and I were genuinely happy to see you grow up with such a warm heart until our last days." The letter conveyed heartfelt gratitude, leaving me overwhelmed. Despite the tears blurring the words, I was determined to take in every sentiment my mother had conveyed and continued reading. She revealed that following my father's wishes, she had secretly changed the apartment's ownership to my name. "I'm sorry for using your seal without permission, but it was both your father's and my wish. Please don't be angry," she wrote. The letter encouraged me to persevere through life's ups and downs, urging me to stay strong and find happiness. The letter ended, and tears streamed down my face, wetting the paper. My aunt, standing next to me, pressed her eyes and shed tears alongside me. "Your sister truly cared about you. In her heart, you were a treasure," my aunt said gently, holding my hand. From the envelope, a bank book in my name emerged, revealing a substantial amount, likely the inheritance my mother had saved for me. A few days later, my brother and his wife showed up at the house without even knocking on the door. "It's time for you to leave, just as promised, right?" my brother sarcastically said. As I stood still, my sister-in-law became irritated, demanding, "Isn't it your duty to leave quickly?" I took a deep breath, looked them straight in the eyes, and calmly stated, "Actually, this house is now under my name." The room's atmosphere became tense. My brother and his wife looked at each other, exclaiming, "What kind of joke is this? I am the eldest son. I should inherit the house, right?" My brother said, clearly shaken. Beside him, my sister-in-law stared at me, saying, "This is the first I've heard of this." However, I had decided to state the facts. The house and the inheritance are all managed under my name, so there's nothing to divide. My brother frowned and insisted, "Then hand over half of that inheritance to us." I questioned, "But this money was left for my future and to ensure that I take care of the house. You always looked down on me, and now you're asking for money. What changed?" His face turned red, and surprisingly, my sister-in-law exclaimed, "Wait, what is this? This isn't what we were expecting." From what I gathered, my brother recently faced significant trouble at his job and was subsequently fired. Not only that, but he and his wife were moving from one day job to another, seemingly in a tight spot financially. With my revelation, their expectations were shattered, and they began bickering, placing blame on one another. Calmly, I said, "This is my house now. If you make any unnecessary fuss, I'll call the police." Trembling with anger, they reluctantly accepted my words and left. Since then, I've had no contact with them. I deliberately deleted all their contact details and began a new life in this apartment, my treasure filled with memories of my father and mother. Now I have a loving partner by my side, and we plan to build a new family in this apartment. He respects my decision and proposed that we take the first step of our new life here. Our future is bright, and I want to pass on the warm love my parents gave me to the children we will have in the future.